benefits for the host community as a result of tourism. However, tourism strongly affected our environment, which leads in damaging it. Tourism as a whole and some of the actions by tourists have over time adversely affected the destination areas through various kinds of environmental pollution, including air, land, water, and soil. Some tourists, for example, will litter and leave behind garbage or waste like plastic wrappers and cigarette butts in the surrounding environment, thereby causing land pollution, plastic pollution, and cigarette pollution respectively. All of this results in damage to our natural environment.
Tourism is dependent on the quality of the environment, both natural and man-made. However, tourism's relationship with the environment is complicated. It entails a variety of activities that may have a negative impact on the environment. Numerous these impacts are associated with the development of general infrastructure such as roads and airports, as well as tourism facilities such as resorts, hotels, restaurants, retail outlets, golf courses, and marinas. The adverse effects of tourism development have the potential to gradually degrade the environmental resources upon which it is reliant.
Tourism gives negative impact especially to the environment. Improperly managed tourist spot leads to environmental destruction like uncontrolled tourists around the place which exceed its carrying capacity. Another negative impacts that tourism gives is the rapid depletion of our natural resources like water due to expansion of tourist industry where the source of water is being disrupted. In addition, tourism also causes pollution, improper disposition of waste like cellophanes, plastics, bottles, and other garbages item leads to water pollution. Unnecessary doings in the spot could also lead to natural, ecological disturbance that may distract the beautiful scenery, like what happens to Mount Apo, where it is temporarily closed due to a forest fire caused by the negligence of the tourist who visits the place. To address all of the constraints in tourism, we should adopt the idea of sustainability, which is the main problem of the main actors in tourism industry today.
Tourism places a huge strain on local land use, including soil erosion, pollution, habitat loss, and increasing pressure on the endangered species. These consequences have the potential to deplete the environmental resources that tourism relies on. Local natural resources depletion, as well as pollution and waste issues, are among them. Overconsumption of natural resources is a common cause of tourism-related resources depletion, particularly in the areas where resources are already scarce. The construction of basic infrastructures such as roads and airports, as well as tourism facilities such as resorts, hotels, restaurants, shops, golf courses, and marinas, is responsible for many negative environmental impacts associated with the tourism. The negative effects of tourist development may eventually deplete the natural resources on which it is reliant.
When a visitor use exceed in the environment capacity to absorb it. Tourism has an adverse effect on the environment. National tourism that is not regulated poses a threat to a large number of natural areas worldwide. Wreak havoc an area resulting in soil erosion, increased pollution discharged into a sea, natural habitat loss, increased pressure on endangered species, vulnerability to forest fires. When tourism development increase consumption in areas when resources are already scarce, it can put pressure on natural resources. Several of the most frequently cited examples include depletion of local water resources and degradation, and resource depletion. The resources, in general tourism industry, overuse water resources for hotels, swimming pool, golf courses, and personal water. By use tourism. This can result in water scarcity and degradation of water supplies as well as increased water generation.
Numerous natural areas worldwide are threatened by uncontrolled conventional tourism. It can wreak havoc on an area, causing soil erosion, increased pollution, discharges into the sea, loss of natural habitat, increased pressure on endangered species, and increased vulnerability to forest fires. It frequently places a strain on water resources and forces indigenous people to compete for scarce resources.
Recommend these following tips that help minimize the damage to our natural environment. Avoid single-use things. Our oceans are stuffed with plastic bottles and things that were used short-term. Thinking double concerning shopping for short-run things in plastic is one amongst the foremost impactful inexperienced selections you'll build. Skip the takeout containers. Bring your own bag or canisters if you believe you'll be obtaining takeout or transferable home leftovers. Bring your own reusable baggage. Pack a waste-free or litterless lunch. Use public transportation and avoid air traveling once attainable, because it uses giant amount of fossil fuels and contributes to greenhouse gases. Lastly, when you go camping, try to scale back the house for your tent as this damages the soil. Conjointly avoid the maximum amount of waste as attainable and solely use the maximum amount of water.
Avoid activities with high environmental impacts like motorized stores, trophy looting, hiking in protected zones that are not open for the public. When wildlife watching, seek for labels that ensure that the guides don't use officious strategies that disturbs natural behavior of animals. Feeding and pressuring can lead animals to behavioral patterns. Stop throwing waste everywhere. Do not take objects, animals, or plants out of nature. Take a photograph after you see them nice and leave the initial to visualize for alternative travelers following you. Animals and plants are often rare and guarded, thus taking them also can lead to legal consequences. When shopping for souvenirs, try to be authentic. Don't purchase plastic objects as they cause a high impact on the nature. Lastly, be careful once shopping for souvenirs of animals and plant origin, like jewelry manufactured from corals and shells. Typically, you cannot directly see that it's made of protected species, otherwise you merely don't comprehend it.